Greetings, this is Dior Ashley Brown on June 26, 2022, visiting with Andre St. Clair, also known as ADST Music, on behalf of DC Music Summit and the Humanities DC Oral History Collaborative. How do you prefer us to address you?
ADST is fine.
Okay, and
Yeah.
where did that come from?
Um, ADST actually is my name is Andre Darren St. Clair, and prior to that, I've been doing hip hop since I was like 13 years old.
Okay.
So this is around the time with X Clan, Chuck D, Public Enemy. Actually, Public Enemy, I believe, or in my opinion, has the greatest album ever. It takes a nation to millions. Hence, ADST originally stood for the African distinctive street teacher.
Wow.
Right. And then so the only reason why I put music in the end was because there is a statistical company or organization that's called ADST.
Okay.
So I didn't want to get in trouble with that, so I just put ADST in music. And I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out different names, but coming back into music, it was always, I don't know, it's just ADST. ADST is me. When it was like kind of like the period of time where I was acting, juvenile. It was like always doing something drive, right? But ADST is Andre Darren St. Clair. That's what it stands for.
So that name came out of the influence of those, are they
Wait,
artists you mentioned? Of course, I
right,
know that, but
right,
yeah.
yeah. So Public Enemy,
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the greatest hip hop groups of all time,
Yeah.
out of New York, Strong Island, Chuck D, Flavor Flav,
Mm-hmm.
S1Ws, so that album actually really influenced me at that time, and actually with a lot of black nationalism. I think when you think of that period of time and then what was being taught in schools, it kind of really radicalized a lot of us and giving us knowledge of self and understanding of things that we weren't being taught in school. Hence, if you look at that time period and that consciousness, looking at like native tongues,
Mm-hmm.
all these different things that were happening with music. You look at BDP and so forth. So um, that time period is a very special time period. Um, it is often also called like the golden age of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a beautiful time because at that period of time, you had that, but then as I mentioned, you have like native tongues. You have like De La doing their thing, right? You have Kid and Play doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have strong sisters such as MC Light, Queen Latifah. So all of these different things were going on. Just reflective of styles. Like you have like something like an artist like Kwame.
Mm-hmm.
So and then on the flip side, you had NWA, right? You had Too
Mm-hmm.
Short. So you had all of these different components and pieces, and even at that, you had in Miami Two Live Crew. So I say all that to say that there was a cohesiveness of hip hop, meaning that you had all of these things that if you turned on a radio or on a video show, you saw all of these different palettes of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about also at that period of time, when you went to a show, you had that as well.
Mm-hmm.
You would have all of these guys traveling together. So I say that to say when you look at the dynamic of music and then what's being played on mainstream radio, um, unfortunately, you don't see that. And a lot of times I think that because of how music is marketed, it's like, hey, this is the thing, and that's the thing with capitalism. We want to copy to, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I think a lot of times now when you talk about dollars and ad dollars, that really is something that affects when it comes to what we hear
Yeah.
and people being scared. And I think what people don't understand a lot of times is that for those that are paying money, they are paying that money for those advertising, or they want that those songs to be locked in, and if they don't play those certain songs, though, they might lose ad dollars from those businesses. So I think that's something that people don't think about. We can talk about that a little bit more later,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. So that's, but yeah, I'm just saying all that to say like that. It kind of like for me was not my introduction. My introduction to hip hop really was I think for many people it was like, for me it was Rapper's Delight. It was LL Cool J, which I have here.
Mm-hmm.
um, the LL Cool J. I need a beat,
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, so this I think is synonymous of like my introduction to hip hop, and for me it was like what is this? And my story of hip hop is a little bit different from people in this area because my parents are not from Washington D.C.
Mm.
Or the Washington D.C. metropolitan area. I
Mm-hmm.
ended up here because my father was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
He was stationed at Bowling Air Force Base.
Uh-huh.
But before moving to Bowling, we lived in Southeast, and then after Bowling, we moved to Oxon Hill, Maryland. So, but my experience with hip hop is that my father's from Mount Vernon, New York.
Okay.
So matter of fact, he was the first class that actually graduated from Mount Vernon High School. So when you think Mount Vernon, we talking Heavy D, we talk Al B. Shore, we talking about P Rock, CL Smooth, all
Wow.
of these guys. So my summers were if it was not in New York, it was in Chicago. My mom's from the South Side of Chicago, so I would go, and I would spend my summers, and a lot of times my summers were spent in Chicago, and I was hearing things that people weren't hearing. Like I would go out there, that's what I heard, like Too Short, what I'm saying, Freaky Tales. Believe it or not, was being played on the radio. Edited version, of course. And then I heard like these two guys, and they were rapping, and it was different. They sounded like Rakim, but it was slow. It was EPMD. And I would come home from the summertime, and I'd like, tell people about it. But, I was a little bit different because of the sense of my experience because of that. So that's how, like, where my beginnings of hip-hop began. And I think also with a lot of artists, you'll hear this, but doing hip-hop here was not popular because of our music scene here, and primarily, it's go-go, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So doing rapping, it's like, oh, you doing that Bama rap stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was not cool to do hip hop, but me and my friends, that's what we did.
Yeah.
That's what actually, when I think back to it, that's what actually kept us out of trouble. And also like it created our brotherhood and bond. Like so, like like we wouldn't be out in the streets. We would be writing songs,
Yeah.
making demos. My friends would be over my house. I had a group, and so that's kind of like how for me my musical journey began.
Let me pull you back just a little bit to
yeah.
bring the audience in a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So let's talk a little bit more about this golden age. When was the golden age of hip hop that you're speaking of? When was that age?
That was really, I say 87 to I want to say 89, maybe 90.
Okay.
So, and then you'll talk to people, and then they'll say there's like another golden age era as well, reflective of like that time period of like 91 through like maybe 93 or 95. But I'm talking about like that Juice Crew,
Yeah.
BDP era.
Okay.
I'm talking about Def Jam at that time, as far as with New York, I mean, even like labels like Profile with like Run DMC, Special Ed, you had like, again, going back to Def Jam, Slick Rick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say that period of time of golden, and it was just like you could do anything. And it was just crazy and amazing of all the music that was out at that time. Yeah.
So, why do you call it the golden age?
Well, I would say for me, I would say I latch on to what others say, but the reason why I say it is the golden age is because, again, this is when you could do anything and it was acceptable, and also you couldn't bite other people. And biting was, and for those who don't understand what biting is, that's basically you're copying someone's style. So, De La Soul, even though they, we're talking again native tongues, did not sound like a Tribe Called Quest. Ice-T did not sound like Eazy-E. You see what I'm saying? NWA, so, and then when you listen to, again, Rakim didn't sound like LL. LL didn't sound like Rakim. KRS-One didn't sound like those guys. You see what I'm saying? Big Daddy Kane. all great lyricists, but from a style, lyrically, also cadences,
Yeah.
concepts, they're all different. Nobody, you wanted to be original.
Yeah.
So that's what was beautiful about that time period, but it was that all of these things were present and could coexist. And so it was just like a golden era in a sense of free of creativity, both musically and then also sound wise. And so we're not even talking about production. So when you talk about, like, again, Public Enemy, Bomb Squad, there's a producer who, even though a little bit prior to that really doesn't get his love, Larry Smith. And Larry Smith was like prior, before all the sampling, like, he did like a lot of the Houdini stuff. But when we talk about that time period again, all of these different, you had Dr. Dre at that time.
Yeah.
And then of course, probably the biggest producer at that time period, I would say, was Marley Marl. But you had all of these different guys that were just, producing at that time period, just different styles. And so that's what made it beautiful. Because if it's reflective of now, it exists. But again, when we're talking about from a mainstream or popular standpoint, that same access that was given back then isn't the same then. But it also has to do with, I think that corporate America didn't see the value of hip hop at that point, so it wasn't commercialized. So that's the other thing. So when you listen to radio, and again, all of these things were able to be played.
Yeah.
So that's why, to me, it made it a golden age era when you listen to that period, and then also that period of time in the 90s. But then eventually you see the shift. But then, corporate America, and then in the industry, I mean, now let's be honest, hip hop is the number one form of music. And then it is also the number one influencer of culture.
Do you mind telling us what year you were born?
I was born in 75.
Okay, and so you were born in 75. So you were born right before the Golden Age. So you were deeply influenced by the Golden Age.
Right. August 28th, 1975. Wow. So, yep. So,
wow. Isn't that Michael Jackson's birthday too, I think?
Next day.
Next day. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. I used to go around telling people my birthday is the same day as Michael Jackson. People used to get excited with weird time. But yeah, people, really, the same day as Michael Jackson? Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, you talked about, where were you born?
I was born actually in Athens, Ohio.
Wow.
Okay. But, again, military.
Yeah, that's right.
So when I was born, I want to say a week or two later, I was here.
So what was it like, being, because you talked about growing up a little bit in Vernon too,
I spent my summers.
Got it.
So my summertime, because parents want to get rid of you.
Yeah.
But my summer times were spent between New York and Chicago.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So and those areas musically influenced me more than here. And it was just not because of me not liking the music here. You have to realize the epicenter of that music, that music was being played freely. I used to go to park jams. I would go see Too Short and people like that free at the park on South Shore Drive in Chicago.
Wow.
With my cousins, we would like walk up. My grandma didn't live too far. We would walk and we would go see them do park jams. So I had more access to music than here. People here didn't hear these things, and then so of course, what do I have? I have cousins. My cousins listen to that. So that's all I'm hearing. My older cousins are putting me onto that. And then when I go to New York, I didn't have as many cousins, but so my grandma had me going to the YMCA, and I met kids, again, same thing, hearing that. And it's so funny, I tell the story to anybody that's from Mount Vernon. So anybody's from Mount Vernon, if I'm not saying the correct street, I used to walk to the YMCA, and it's a street called, I think it's 4th Street. And every time I tell people that, and I'll be like, yeah, I used to go play with the gangs and all that, everybody's like, you used to, go to the 4th Street? I was like, yeah, I would go to this place, play games, blah, blah, blah. And I did not know this is where all the pimps, hustlers, people of the street were at. And they were like, nobody, man. I'm like, nah, I just go there, play. And so I heard a lot of music with just doing that. So that's what I said. Like I would come home and I would bring these tapes, or I would, and I had all of this music that people here didn't have access to. Yeah. So So my love of music and my appreciation from hip hop is a little bit different because when you come out here, you had I don't even know if it was PGC at that time, but you had primarily like that station, and then I think then LBD was on it. So album LBD and what have you. So you had that, and then remember we had the box.
Well, explain what LBD is for the people.
LBD was a disc jockey on WPGC at that time. He was like probably the hottest DJ at that point, as far as champion music. But you had that. Our access was the box, and for those
here
who
in
remember,
DC.
yeah. So for those who remember the box, was you can pay like 99 cents, call and pay 99 cents, and you will watch whatever video you want to watch. So that was groundbreaking. You had Rap City. You had a Video Soul on BET. Rap City on BET. You also had Yo MTV Raps. There's two versions of it. The original one was on Saturdays with Fab Five Freddy. Then they decided to do the weekly version with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. So you had that. But then here, you had what was it? Saturday night videos on Friday night videos on NBC. You had you had Pump It Up on Saturdays. That came on Fox on Channel 5 here. And then there was another joint that came on Channel 9. I can't remember the name of it.
I'm surprised because you have a great memory.
Yeah. Because this is all I used to, yeah.
You're reminding me of my childhood.
Yeah. Gosh, it's a show that came on Channel 9. I can't remember the name of the video show, but it came on Friday, and it was like and then Friday night, between Friday night and Saturday night, that was what you're getting your music from. And, it ain't really like Friday night videos pretty much because it was kind of like, if you're a hip-hop head, it was playing like the commercial stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you really wouldn't get that, but that's where you're going to see Michael Jackson, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where you're going to see like Rick James or what have you. You're going to see Madonna and all that, but you were getting that, right? New Shoes and all of that. So you were getting all of that music there. Then you hop, and I can't remember the show that was competing on Channel 9. They had that show. And then, like I said, Saturday is like, Pump It Up. So Pump It Up was kind of like on open air format, the equivalent of what Rap City was. So he's like, that was what you were getting your hip hop palette from.
So let's bring it back a little bit more to what was the vibe like in DC when you I know you were traveling to Chicago and things for the summers, but what was that vibe like when you were growing up? Do you remember?
So for me, I mean, it was go-go.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It was it was go-go primarily, and then it was whatever, like I said, it was being played on like KYS and 93 not 93.9 but WPGC. So, my introduction to go-go, of course, was like neighborhood friends, having PA tapes or what have you. Now, again, my family is not from here.
Yeah.
So, my parents aren't playing that in the house, so I didn't have that exposure. But it was when I would go to my friend's house, they would be playing it. And then in middle school, we had like a dance, and then some students had a band there. And that was like my first time, like at that time period, like seeing like go-go like live. And I'm like, all right, I've heard it, But yeah, so hearing like saying Little Benny and them, saying Rare Essence, Jump, and then it was kind of cool to see Junkyard and Tougher Than Leather as well.
Okay.
Because they were actually playing sardines in it, But that was my experience at that time period. It was like that was primarily what the music was, what the scene was, and then my friends, a lot of them would be sneaking out, going to go-go's. They ain't had no business going. You see what I'm saying? And so for me, I really didn't actually go to a go-go till like I was like 16 maybe, maybe 17. Again, family, and I didn't. My parents were always in the house, so it wasn't like I could sneak out, and I wasn't that type of kid,
Right.
But that's what it was, and that's what people, people didn't want to be rappers. People didn't want to be. I mean, it was either like you want to be, you want to be in a band, maybe somebody that can sing that wants to be a vocalist, but that was it, right?
Yeah.
But to say that you want to be a rapper, why you want to be a rapper? You know what I'm saying? I'm know people that just wanted to like, be on front line, talking, whatever. And if you're rapping, you're doing it in that sense. But like to do hip hop, why you want to do that? You know, so it wasn't like the popular thing, but that was what it was. You know, you know, and I think, but like from a hip hop standpoint here, what we did here was DC Scorpio. I would say DC Scorpio, Stone Cold Hustler was like one of my first introductions to somebody actually doing a hip hop song here. It was DJ Cool. Hearing like pump up the volume. It was DJ Cool. It was Stinky Dink. One Track Mind. Like from a hip hop standpoint here, then it was like, oh, okay, you could do a song here because these guys are doing it. So they were popular, but again, that wasn't something that was like really big. But if we're talking about like first generation or first incarnation of artists doing that, I would say for me it was DC Scorpio, it was Stinky Dink, it was DJ Cool. Those were like the first people. And it was like, oh, okay, well, they doing, maybe possible. But at the same time, though, like Cool was infusing go-go and hip-hop. And it was dope. But that's what it was. It was just like, and then when we had talent shows, people had bands. I remember we did a talent show. I was in 11th or 12th grade. They was laughing at us. We was doing hip hop.
What school was this?
Oxon Hill.
Oh, okay.
Oxon Hill High School. They was laughing at us. You know what I'm saying?
They were laughing at you because
we was doing hip hop.
We was doing hip hop.
We were rapping like, why you trying? So I say all that to say that, like, when I stopped doing music for a time period, again it was like, everybody that knew me, they knew why I did this, but then I stopped. I stopped primarily because I had a child, and it was just like, and then we were coming to age in the group I was in. We was on the U Street.
What was your group name?
The group name was AF.
AF. Okay.
Yeah. So we were first called Mentally Violent.
Yeah.
And then we changed the name to AF. It was for Assorted Flavors.
You said Mentally Violent?
The first name was Mentally Violent.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was the name of the group. Then we changed it because then it was me and my friend Mike Bryant. A lot of people know him as Mike or Go Jesus because he's like is popular with a lot of the videos he puts up on YouTube, and he has like a lot of PA tapes. But shout out to him. Yeah. But I started doing music with him. He had a drum machine. I had turntables. Yeah. And we would just jam out. And then at the age of 16, that's when I decided to. As a matter of fact, I had this here. At the age of 16, I went to Night Flight Studio. And if you look on the back here, these are the songs that we did. And, this is the actual reel.
That is wild.
In pristine condition.
And what year was this?
This was 1992.
Wow.
92.
And could you read the songs that are on the back there? Yeah.
So, what we have here is "Who's the Next to Speak," which was the first song that I produced.
Yeah.
And then it's "Chilling in the Lab." My friend, Big Groove, he goes by Willie Bang. He produced that one. And this other one just says "Beat," so I don't remember what that one's. So if you look here, because again, this is like tape. So on here you have the sympathy start time, so that's when the song starts, right? And then you have the tempo, so like that they needed to know that when they would sync it up. So these songs were recorded at Night Flight Studio.
Wow. Where was Night Flight? Night
Flight Studio still is in Fort Washington, Maryland. It is actually owned by oh gosh, I'm gonna get killed from that. Stacy Lattisaw husband. Forget his name, but Johnny Gill and not Stacy Lattisaw. Is it Stacy? Oh God. This is the part where
no
I
worries,
apologize.
No worries.
It'll
come to you. You have a great memory.
But anyway, So he owned a. I'm sorry. I'm only reason. This is the only time I'm getting on my phone.
Okay.
I don't want it because I know this is being recorded. And
absolutely.
And I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yes.
But yeah. So. There we go. Yep, Stacy Lattisaw. I was right.
Yay! Woo!
So Stacy Lattisaw's husband, I forget his name, but they own a studio in Fort Washington, and that's where we began to record Rick Fro, Scotty Beats and them, R.I.P. Scotty. They were like our first engineers, and they were like the first guys that like taught us equipment. So I,
Well, let's back up a little bit. So, you recorded this in '92.
yep.
The band's name was Mentally Violent. Then what was the new name?
It was called Assorted Flavors.
Assorted
But
Flavors.
then we changed the name to AF because there was a singing group called Assorted Flavors.
Okay. And how old were you all?
We started recording at 16.
Wow.
We changed the name to AF when we were 18.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so you did your first recording at how old?
16 professionally.
Wow.
I produced my first song when I was 16.
So, how did you guys come to that decision? Because, like, for you to have that, to me, is like, whoa, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah.
We used to do like pause tapes.
And you guys weren't signed or anything.
Nah.
Wow.
We used to do pause tapes, and like I said, I would find samples. So I was like, oh yeah. So I went in the studio and I was just like, hey, I want to. Can you sample this? It was a sample from War. I was like, yeah, can you loop that? So they were like, okay, yeah, we can loop it. And then I had shout out to my guy DJ Tyke. He was like the guy that taught me DJing, but he had all the break beats. So he put me on the break beats. So break beats were like drum breaks. And you know, when we talk about the essence of hip hop, that's like with the jams where they were taking the breaks of the song, hence break beats. And so that's what they were, where they were loops. So and then I had a drum loop, and then so I was like, that was the beat. And then the guy in there, he was like, okay, I could play a bass line, and it'll go like this. And it was like, all right, cool. And it was just a loop. And then we were just happy, we was recording and doing a song. And it was like, the name of the song was Who's the Next to Speak. We took...
Who's the Next to Speak?
Yeah, we took, what's the name? Showbiz. And the song, he was like, yeah, so who's the next to speak? Step up to speak if your shit ain't weak. And so that was the hook. We were like, who's the next to speak? Who's the next to speak?
Fresh.
Yo, step up to speak if your shit ain't weak.
Hey.
Who's the next to speak? Who's the next to speak? Yeah. Yeah, so that's how it was. And then my rhyme was terrible.
And I'm sorry. So who?
Yeah. Yeah,
So who was the producer? How did the production come about again?
That was all me.
Get out.
I found the record. I had a drum loop, and I just told them, because I didn't understand equipment. They had an ASR 10, so he just did everything I asked him on the ASR 10. Wow. So that's how I was producing at that time. You know, I had, again, like turntables. My man had a drum machine. We would just figure it out from there, and we would make like pause tapes. And then there were these Gemini samplers where they were mixers, but they had samplers. They had like a 12-second sampler, and then they had like these 3-second bangs. We would sample, and we would do it that way, and then we would chop up the beats, and we were doing all this stuff. We were doing all of this stuff, like live, and then we would make these demos, and then we would go to studios, and they'd be like, how do y'all do this? And we told them, they were like, they couldn't believe that we were doing the stuff we were doing. And then they would do what they were hearing based off of how we did it at the house. So that's how I started doing music production.
That is wild. So, you talked about hip hop not being traditionally accepted in DC and around that time.
Yeah, let's get to that.
Yeah. What kept you all from being discouraged and keep going?
Our love for music. But it was, so now we're talking about, so now in 93 we're in college.
Okay.
So now, you know, we discover, oh, there's talent shows, and oh, we go to college, and oh, there's people from like New York or what have you. So because it was maybe a broader audience of people, it was a little bit easier to express the talent on that level, because you had people from other areas, and then they were like, so, you know, that's when you had the ciphers, right?
Yeah.
So when you showing skill or what have you, or somebody sees me DJing or making a beat, the one thing that, at least for them, they were like, oh, whatever, but then when they see it, it's like they couldn't deny that, oh, okay, this person's dope. So so from that standpoint, that was kind of cool, because now there's another ecosystem, and it's like, now you trying to be dope on campus, you know? So it was like, for me, I went to UMES for 2 years, but then I transferred at Bowie. We were bigger at Bowie because a lot of my group members were there, and we used to open up and do the shows there. So, fun fact. So in '94, we opened up for Mobb Deep before they dropped the Infamous album.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like a
Okay.
B. I don't know if you remember with BET. They had the YSB magazine.
I think
They had a
so.
YSB magazine tour. Joe Claire was hosting it, and they came through. But we opened up for that. Mobb Deep came. This is like they performed the whole album primarily, and this is before anybody heard. And we were like, oh my god! Only song that was out was Shook Ones at that
Ain't no
time.
such things as
Yeah,
that. Wow.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
So
we
YSB was a hip hop magazine.
right by
Okay.
BET.
By BET.
And
Got
so
it.
so
Mhm.
anything that was hip hop.
Mhm.
So that was the great thing about Bowie State at that time because anything that we were connected, anything hip hop that came there, we were opening up for it. So and I was trying to find a poster I could show you on my phone, but like we opened up for like KRS-One. So the show was KRS-One. Biz was DJing it.
Wow.
It was so funny because Kenny, he had his SP on stage, and it was so dope because he was playing around with it. And he let us freestyle over it. It was a great experience. And then, but we opened up for KRS-One, and it was Northeast Groovers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
okay.
I'll show you the footage when we're done. But if you look at our performance, it's on YouTube, my man. Again, shout out to Mike. It's on there, and you see it. It's like a sea of people when we was doing hip hop.
So even though at the time DC traditionally wasn't accepting hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
you all were persevering and opening up for
Yeah.
acts like Mobb Deep and
Yeah, so
KRS-One.
yeah, so that college circuit world,
Mhm.
meaning between Maryland, Eastern Shore, when they
Yeah.
would do like certain events, or if it's like again like we had somebody like my man Big Roof, he was at Morgan State, and then but primarily we were at like again because of our influence, like when it came to hip hop, I'm not gonna say we ran it, but we were in the forefront because like we had friends that were in student government or whatever that would champion us to allow us to like do those shows. Like they had like a TV show. We performed on the TV show at Bowie State. Another fun fact: we opened up for Rockefeller. So this is Rockefeller minus Jay-Z. So we opened up for like it was Beanie, Emil, DJ Clue
Yeah.
was DJing for all of them, and Memphis Bleak. And we opened up for them. And we had this one song. I don't really want to curse, but it was a curse word and something. But
You can.
okay, the name of the song was called "Fuck 'Em Till They Fall," and DJ Clue was impressed by that song. So I was like, all right, we doing something. If Clue's like, yeah, what's that song? So yeah, so Bowie State gave us that, and then we discovered U Street. And then so we got into U Street a little late. I want to say at that time period we found U Street like maybe 99, 2000. So that's when we found the state. That's when we found like all these the Coffee House, all of that type of stuff. But we used to perform at the State of the Union. Matter of fact, the shows are again. They're on YouTube.
Yeah.
So proof of life. It's there. And I had at that show. We used to do shows. I would do this. I would play this MPC live on stage.
Wow.
I would and load up the joints. It was so the way we did it. Shout out to my man Rough and Ready, my man Eric Williams. He would be the DJ and I would do this, and so he would cover me in between when I would be going through loading tracks. So that would be kind of like that, kind of like period of time so that I could do what I need to do. And our show was set up primarily. It was at that time. Shout out to my man Vasi, 13th floor. He's down with Crayola as well. So he was the main artist. I was the producer. Like I said, Rough and Ready was our DJ, and then we had my man Damo. Shout out to Damo Hicks. He's a comedian, and he's always been a comedian. But then our show was also because he would do the comedy, and it was like our show was kind of like a little everywhere, but it worked because it was enough that where Cliff again or Vasi was MCing, I was doing this, and then he was doing it, and then like the break periods we just had this interesting show.
Yeah.
And that's where we would go run on U Street.
Wow.
Yep. We were at Bar None and all of that stuff.
Let me pull you back
Yeah.
just a little bit. How did you come about this piece of equipment? Was that popular to have that piece of equipment when you were rocking at these shows?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
everybody. Well, if you didn't have this, you had either an ASR 10, which is the keyboard that can sample, or you had like an SP. But at that time, really, the MPC at that time kind of like took over. And so the reason why I brought it to a show was because I knew from an attention getter, nobody was really doing that. You know what I'm saying? Nobody like what And so what I would just do is I'll just play the songs, I'll trigger them live, or I'll just play with the drums live.
Okay.
I would this ain't no at that time I didn't chop. I was looping. So it was
Okay.
so and finger drumming, if you know what finger drumming is it wasn't a thing at the time. I would just playing the drums live, but it wasn't like I was like, if you seen finger drumming like as it is today, I wasn't doing that. But like I would just be playing the drums over maybe a sample or a break beat,
Okay.
or like if say like I have the loop of the song playing, and just because I want to do it live, I'll just play the drums live on it that way.
Explain the breakbeat.
So meaning that where you'll have like a drum break, meaning like it's a beat is looping or what have you. Just imagine that it's just an instrumental and it's just like the sample or whatever the instrumentation is. So it's just that, and then I would hit the pads and I would just be doing the drums live to give it kind of like that authentic feel. But also as an attention getter, it gets people's attention.
Yeah.
And I realized that also because we fast forwarding it with the Hip Hop Museum. Shout out to Boom, but with them, with the beat conductors, I got in with them, and I was noticing that the news was there and people were looking at us, and we were playing beats and people were just triggering. I was like, you know what, I'm a go live, and I'm a like show my chop skills live, and I did that because I remember that back in the day, and I said that to say I ended up on the news, on Fox 5 News. You see me up there doing my thing. I mean, it was like for 15 seconds, but it was kind of dope. But that's what I realized, like certain things like that, you're not necessarily always seeing that at a show. So it's like, what's he doing? So it's like, so that's why I brought that to the shows, to kind of be different. Because you got to think about it as well. You've seen a lot of hip hop and you want to stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you show some of the older records that you brought today?
Sure.
And I have a question too.
So I couldn't find the main one of what I wanted to bring, which was "Long Live the King," but I brought "The Adventures of Slick Rick," which I think this is probably like an all-time hip hop album.
Yeah.
When you talk about Slick Rick, his storytelling, the production, a lot of people, Slick Rick really influenced a lot of people. Primarily, that everybody knows as Snoop. Snoop will say that as well. You can hear it, but when it comes to like description, when it comes to like you can just close your eyes and and hear everything that he's talking about. So, I brought this album because this, again, like I said, it really influenced me as well.
How old were you when you got that album?
Oh wow, this was 87. So I was like 12.
Wow.
Like 12. Like when these albums came out,
Did
12,
you
12
know
13.
you were going to rap? Were you rapping yourself?
I was listening at
You
that
were
time.
listening. Okay.
I started rapping. Somebody was writing raps for me as fun, like 13. I started rapping at 14, 89. And then Dougie Fresh, the greatest entertainer.
Yeah.
I would say this album, man, I mean, just like Keep Rising to the Top was just like, you couldn't tell me nothing. I'm just listening to like, what I'm saying? I'm getting ready. And then here's the thing also, shout out to Dougie Fresh. Dougie Fresh probably also one of the biggest artists as well with working with Go-Go.
Yeah.
When you think of that, like I'm getting ready when he did it with Essence.
Yeah.
So you think of that. And then also with not Dougie, but also shout out to like Herbie Lovebug, like, what I'm saying, with thinking about that with Salt and Pepper, with Kid and Play, that, these guys had that foresight, when you listen to that, but they were incorporating, Go-Go into it. So, but this album to me, I used to love like The Plane So High, and that was like a dope, album. Like this album overall, like DEF, I could listen to this. I can listen to this album, all day long. I mean, and then it's so funny because when you listen to these albums as well, it takes you back. And that's the thing. I don't think really with music consumption is a little bit different now.
Yeah.
But these, it's like a time. It's like a time machine.
Yeah.
I think you can remember everything a lot of times what's going on in that time period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the relationship to the music back then means a little bit more because
Yeah.
it's like as you were developing as a human being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you were getting picked up for the tours, how was that happening? When you were picking up the school tours and you were opening up for these amazing
We would go
artists?
to
Yeah.
the student union.
Okay.
And so we knew like people in the student union because the people in the student union were putting the shows together. The homecoming, homecoming people.
Yeah.
So we would talk to them, and then that's how we would get on. And people knew
Wow.
that we were doing hip hop on campus,
Uh-huh.
just from like my again Vasi. He had a song he wrote. For his dorm and put in tape, and everybody had it, so everybody knew that we were doing music.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember we would do shows in there, and I would bring the MPC live, and and the school, and people were like, "What is he doing?" But I would do it live. Yep.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that's how we were known. So that's why I said when it came to, and the reason why I'm saying Bowie stayed at that time period, like we're talking about, 95, 98.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we ran hip hop on Bowie State campus, so that's how we had the access that we had. It wasn't great access but as far as the greatest access of what tools were available at that time, we had carte blanche with it. So that's how we were able to do what we needed to do, and then from that stuff, like we would go like to Maryland and do ciphers. We would go out to Morgan. So we would go when we found out their stuff, we would go do it, and that's why I said. And then that's when we found out about U Street, and then we would go down there and do stuff down there, and that's how we met like a lot of the people, down there on U Street. We were like, oh wow, we didn't know this exists. So
Yeah, you mentioned Coffee House.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that experience on U Street? Like what it was like? Was it a go-go U Street? Was it a hip-hop go-go U Street?
No, it was, well, at least
yeah.
my experience was.
Oh, and explain what the Coffee House is too. Yeah.
So my experience, U Street, and it still is. It's like it's like its own world. Like you're going down the street, and literally everything is on that street, in the sense of with bars and music, and then also when we're talking about. If you're a foodie with different like different restaurants that they have there, but along that strip, like I said, it's music. So again, when we're talking about I'm starting with State of the Union. Like State of the Union was like next to Republic Gardens, so you gotta understand that. And if you understand Republic Garden was like everything that was like mainstream, and then you got this little club next to it, and they doing hip hop next to it, and it was just like crazy. And then some of those people there, they were kind of like this, and that's like again, but that was whatever. But we had our own scene there. But like with the Coffee House, like I said, like going in there and that experience, very similar. Again, with the aesthetic vibes, again being able to present your art, being able to connect with like minds. There's been times also when there's been like bands there as well, and doing jam sessions. Excuse me, I think that's where we met Crayola there, but yeah, so these were like places that again, and also I have to say this because like I think was it 2002, 2003 I stopped doing music, but that was like my experience there. So there is also like a period of time after that I can't speak where we talk about like Capital City Records, and I wasn't like around at that time with like all of the different things that were going on at that point. But that was like my experience, and what I'm saying is just that artists could like actively, weekly, you were doing events, and you could go out and you can express yourself. Yeah. And what's crazy is that there are a lot of people that have came through there that are big names now, but then also it held its own in the sense of like it was like again its own, I guess, ecosystem. It was a great time, collaborative. Meeting people, and so it was different. It was very different, and then it was.
Can you explain different?
I think the synergy. I think the unity. I think it was more so unity, but also because I think a lot of the artists, although again different, I think it was that we. I'm trying to. I don't want to say that word, but basically, we were our own community. We were supportive of each other. In that vein, and then when you look at the city at that time, again, like I said, with the city structure, because I know you're talking about infrastructure, there wasn't all. And again, we're talking like hip hop, like in the late '90s, early 2000s. There's not really many places for you to, present your art. Like we would do like somebody would do something and we'll be like in like a warehouse. I remember we did something like on in New Carrollton, and we were in like a warehouse, and it was like kind of like janky, You had and you still had people doing this now, where it would be like some of these one-off places that we would do, and you had and they just people still do that. You had to pay to perform, but there was not a lot of places, what I'm saying, at that time to do that. And like I said, again, the city, and it's no fault to us, but again, people also, they want to hear bands.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They want to hear that, and DC is a live music city. So that's why I say when it comes to infrastructure for us at that period of time, it really was really just like that corridor of U Street where you'd be able to present your art and do things there. So that's what was unique about that, in that everybody supported everybody, and I think everybody understood that in that sense. So
Yeah. What does the term DMV mean to you? Was it a term you heard growing up?
So that term came like in the early part of the 2000s. And so when we say DMV, we say DC, Maryland, Virginia. So before I answer that, what I will say is this. Again, remember I told you I would go to New York and I would go to Chicago. And people will always say to me, "Where are you from?" And I'll say I'm from Maryland, right?
Yeah.
Where's Maryland? All right.
Yeah.
Always, so it'll be like I was like, I live like by DC. Oh, you from DC? So note that. And then when The Wire came out, when I tell people I'm from Maryland, what's that next to? Or they'll know The Wire. Oh, you from Baltimore? Those were like people didn't understand it. But so with DMV. Of course, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. To me, in my opinion, and that's why I might get in trouble, but to me, in my opinion, when we say that, it's just another way of just saying, Washington, D.C. metropolitan area is what I believe. I think also that coin was also to kind of fit as a cool way to kind of say that, and also as a movement for that. There's been many discussions and all of that with what that is. So meaning that, okay, you have Baltimore, right? And then you also have, for people who don't know, the 757 or the 7 cities. So what that is that's like Newport News, that's Portsmouth, that's Norfolk, that's Suffolk, that's Virginia Beach. So, so basically that area, for those people that don't know, like even like, I guess you could say Tappahannock a little bit. So Tappahannock is where Chris Brown is from. Newport News, that's where the Clips, Allen Iverson is from. You know what I'm saying? You talking about Virginia Beach, that's where Pharrell's from. Portsmouth, Missy's from. So just, and then like Norfolk, producer-wise, we could say Knots. And then, then you got also Richmond. So, you got like Lonnie B, you got Danger Mouse, you got the Super French, you got Skills. So that's where they're from. So the thing is, when we talk about DMV, and when you get in these conversations, because of how it started, everybody's like, no, the DMV is this, and then you get into all of these arguments. But a lot of times, and I get it, it's like from a unity standpoint, definitely it's great that we should all work together. But also what happens is you get into this chatter and arguments, but I get what Baltimore's saying, and it's true. Like Baltimore really is like a different. It's different,
It's different.
It's like I live in PG County. And I live like 20 minutes from the line. But when you go to Baltimore is like a port city. It's like, it feels like you're in Pittsburgh if you've been to Pittsburgh. It's like, it feels like an industrial city.
Yes.
And then we're on this side, so it's a different life, it's a different culture, right? They talk different, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Slang everything, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know, and they have their own
That's
music as
right.
well,
They
you know what
sure
I'm
do.
saying?
And vibe, yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, so you a lot of times you talk to them, they're like we're like, you know what I'm saying, to know this, but they don't identify with us in that way, and then a lot of times in the same way. So when you saying DMV, it's kind of like, that's not necessarily what it was necessarily meant to be. And then when you talk to the Tidewater 757, 757, again, like with them down there, again, it's a different culture.
Yeah.
So to me, DMV is our area in a way to kind of to blend and gel it together as well, because now, yeah, I'll say I'm from Oxon Hill, or I'll say PG County, and I think it's a little bit easier for people. I think also with the internet breaking down, and the internet basically has melted cultures, and I think the internet also is the reason why it now that generation is why I believe it's like kind of like helping and made it cool for people to rap here. You know what I'm saying? That's actually the internet, I think, in the generation before that, and the access is what then it just brought down the barriers. And then so like when you have like guys like Kev, Odyssey, you see the emergence of Wale or what have you, Logic, all these other guys or what have you, it's because I think it's the internet that kind of did that. And it's like the culture, the internet blended culture. Because if you look at it prior to the internet, it was kind of like you knew where somebody was from. Like when we was in college, I know y'all from PG, Slouch Socks, you know what I'm saying? Madness or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You you from New York, you know what I'm saying? Where the Timbs or whatever, blah, blah. You knew where somebody was from Baltimore. And a lot of times from the HBCU standpoint, you kind of knew where people were from. So it was a little bit different then. I don't know if I'm off point with it, but just to me, when we say DMV, that's what I believe it is. And it's not. And I think people harp on. I think people harp on it too much. And it's crazy now. Because there's nothing really to get in an argument about, but for some reason, I realize that people become, I don't know if it's at the time, people become passionate with it, and it's like, it's okay. But it was just more so of like a identifier, like almost saying like, oh yeah, tri-state area.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's basically the equivalent of saying it's the tri-state area.
Yeah.
That's it. So that's what my opinion is that, and I think that also, I think saying you're from the DMV really, and people might be mad at me for saying this, I think it really helps more so people in Maryland and Virginia as well, because Northern Virginia, and when I say Maryland, more so PG, MoCo, maybe Charles County.
Right, a little closer in.
Because people don't, they don't know what that is, but when you say DMV, okay, then you think of the area as a whole. I think it's a little bit easier for people to understand it. I think also, though, when it comes to, at least from a Prince George's County standpoint, I think now people really are understanding where Prince George's County is also because of basketball and the people that came out of here because of basketball. So that's what it is. I think the DMV, and when we say the DMV, it was an identifier to help people understand where the music is coming from.
Right.
And so I think that's why I said, like, when we say that, that's where the arguments come, because when like Baltimore is something different, and then like I said, Baltimore does have their own thing. They have their own style. You know what I'm saying? And then then like I said again, like when you go down, because like I was in a prior relationship with somebody, and her family was from like Portsmouth, so I had that experience down there, and I know how it is down there. It's like, again, it's a different world, it's a different culture. So, but yeah, that's what to me DMV is. You know, and it's not a thing of this now, and so, but I get it, because I seen, like, not saying any names, I've seen the list, and when the list come out of who's best, or who's top, or who's top rapper.
Okay.
And when you see these listening, like, oh, well, Pusha T, like he's in what I'm saying, Newport News. Why is he on this list? Why you got him on here? So it's kind of, and he's the only person that comes to mind when I'm thinking of the list. But it's like, and so those were the conversations come in, and then all the debates and everything. And I saw that he responded, and he was just like, hey, really we as a whole, he responded to the post. He was like, as a whole, he was like, we need to be together. So, yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think it's important as far as the industry goes for us to be, or do you think it's important for us to be called the DMV?
I think it works because of overall, it's again, like I said, try to say, I think people don't really understand the area as a whole. Number one, I mean, we know DC, but I think like when it comes to like artists that are in Maryland, Virginia, I think it's an identifier collectively. It helps somebody to understand where you're from, but also my excuse me, my proof of concept is togetherness. So I have a company called ADST Media, and that's been kind of like my model. Is that I kind of glue people together, even though they may not be connected per se with music, but they're connected by the name and they're connected by what we do. And then I cross promote people together. So I think it's like the same with DMV in that sense that I think that we should champion each other in that fashion because and that's what he was saying because together, we help each other to grow. You never know what somebody can do for you, and that's actually has been like the tell of my story and coming up. So I think it's important, that we do that, and I don't think it's an issue, but I think really that the people that have the problem with that is ego related. All all that is to me is like ego and negative energy. And so that's part of the reason why also people leave the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to speak on that?
Yeah. So this area is big, but at the same time it's small.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of us know each other, and we're always probably less than 6 degree separation of knowing who somebody is with the community. We're all connected, believe it or not. You may not know it, but we're connected in some way. Yeah, but I think that
and that being the industry.
The industry, the industry definitely, and probably even people, but industry. But so here's the problem. Number one, when it comes to doing things here from a musical standpoint, the city has changed.
Yeah.
This is not the DC that was 10 years ago, and this is not same for movie like decades or even 5 years apart. And even now, right, coming out of COVID, because a lot of businesses have not survived, and a lot of places that we've been able to go to do events, they're not here anymore, right? So now we're going out into this new world. We're trying to be able to present our talents and perform. So what's happening is that DC is a very transient city, right? And so neither here nor there with that, but because of it being that, you have a lot of people here that also don't understand the culture, right? So that for them, they may not necessarily cater towards that or understand that, like you may have a guy from New York City, let's just say hypothetically, that's running something. He may not understand certain things with that. And so because of that, that's part of like the infrastructure issue as well, with someone saying, okay, I want to be able to allow you guys to do your art here, but they don't understand it. They don't, and so because of that, they may not champion. So that's one reason why. As far as with leaving, but before you think in the past, even like I said with the whole U Street is totally different now. So all the places that we were talking about before, like I didn't even say like Bohemian Cavern is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like all of these places are gone.
Yeah.
I think, and then Bar None, which is now Pure, they still do things, for artists there. I think that's probably like in the top of my head, but like I think like also like again. Prior COVID, like I did a show at U Street Music Hall. It closed. It's now a place called Privilege. I would say I went to an event there. Shout out to the Up and Up. They did like a open mic thing. That was pretty dope there.
At Privilege.
Yeah, Privilege. That's the old U-Haul. But then and then they got the bands that there. I think Frank and them are a serious company there on Wednesday. But just saying like, again, a place that was one thing and it's another thing. Like Bohemian Caverns is now Harlot, so it's like, what is this,
And can you talk really quick about, the Up and Up and also Bohemian Caverns and that area in your street?
So with the Up and Up, shout out to Truth, all those guys, Godzilla, all those guys. So that was like basically an event open mic event where people would come through and they would present their talent. And so at Bohemian Caverns, they had an upper level called Live. So not only them, but just in general, it was also a great epicenter for hip hop and to be able to do things. And they were in kind, and that's the big word, in kind, with local artists. And I hate using that word, but artists from the area, because a lot of times when you say local, it kind of like makes it seem demeaning. But just saying that talent that is from the area, they're in kind, to be
based.
that are based here to be able to present their arts.
Yeah.
So you had that. Then also, Bohemian Cavern as a whole, I still can't believe again that it's gone, because it really was a landmark. I think it should have been protected. But going back as far as with jazz, having the jazz shows and everything like that, but now it's gone. And so with U Street Music Hall, it was owned by some DJs, but again, because of COVID, they weren't able to survive that time period. So they had to shut down. But these are places that again would allow us to present. And so privilege is new. So I'm not saying that they're not. Actually, I talked to them about doing something there, but we were able to figure out at another venue. But so I can't really say about them per se in that. But the UAU was able to do something. So I guess I'll say that with them. Yeah, it appears with them that they're in kind, and that's the word I like to use. They're in kind, but. There are people here also, I said, not understanding certain things. They make it very difficult for us to be able to come in and present our art. I don't know if it's maybe because they don't understand it. I don't know if it might be also because of like maybe business practices or what have you. But like, for example, we did an event at a particular location, no problems, even though some of the business of it was not the greatest, but we were able to do it. And then coming back after having a successful event there, they presented a ridiculous bar guarantee for like a week.
About how much was that bar guarantee?
$12K.
Wow.
And 25% gratuity.
This is today. Like this
just recently happened.
Wow.
So
wow, that is ridiculous.
So
was the venue huge? Like it was like 1,000-person capacity space or 500-person capacity?
When you look in there, it says like at the bar it says 108, and then they have an outside area. So I'm gonna say like
108 capacity.
I'm gonna say that they probably can hold between in and outdoor 200.
Okay.
I'll say maybe 200.
Yeah.
All right. Food isn't great there. So, when you're talking about bringing people in and consumption of alcohol, you want to eat. Yeah. So it's not even set up for that. But they supposedly claim they made 10 to 12K on a weekend. But we would, so my also proof of concept with my business is that, hey, I'm Monday through Wednesday. I'll get you Monday through Wednesday because I know that primarily on the weekends, that's where the bars want to make their money. And then there's a lot of competition from that standpoint, from a live performance type of thing. So I know a lot of people don't want to do, hey, I want to get out and whatever. So if I'm going to do something, it's going to be Monday to Wednesday. But to have a 12K bar guarantee, and so with us, like, we've been able to do like 5K on a Wednesday.
Okay.
But even at that, if I was to even charge, with that same type of scenario, I wouldn't have been able to I would be in a loss. And it's like, okay, now you're charging people to get in. Now you have to make it worthwhile for somebody to spend money
at the bar.
Yeah, so even if we're talking about $20 to get in, and it's 200 people, you know what I'm saying? That's still not the bar. And then I told them, I was like, okay, if I charge this, that's $4K. That we're gonna make at the door, and then I just we made $5K, and people are not gonna be eating like that. Like that's like a $3K deficit. So I don't know if they necessarily said that just to say, oh, we don't want to do business with you. So sometimes I wonder if that's happening as well, where it's kind of like, oh, we don't want to do business with you, but it's kind of like I'll tell you the most ridiculous thing, so that you'll walk away, So I can't say that that's really the truth, but it's just that it makes it very difficult with doing things here. And then also when it comes to...
do you think that's a DMV issue or DC issue, or do you think with it being transient, or do you think that's an issue of gentrification?
I think it's an issue with gentrification. and then and also again I say the transient thing because like I said because it's like these people just don't understand the
Yeah.
culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they
Mm-hmm.
understand what they understand. They'll bring in what they bring in,
Mm-hmm.
and so they'll go to attract that. And I mean, I get it. You know, like 'cause government's here. A lot of people that are here
Yeah.
are not from here.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, and I appreciate the city for I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate like the mayor with certain programs that you had like 202 creates you guys
Yeah.
the DC Music Summit. I appreciate you guys because that's what you're championing
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that that is not lost.
Yeah.
And so, but so when you talk about access issues, now as an artist, here's the craziest thing: I get more love outside of here.
Mm.
I got DJ Premier playing my music all the time.
Wow.
I have, Shady 45 playing our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have Chuck D from Public Enemy playing my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's simulcast on 225 stations. I have about 5 stations or shows in Canada, Calgary, Toronto. I can't think of the other cities, and I don't want to. But our music is being played out there. It's being played in Idaho. It's being played in Arkansas. It's being played in.
And why do you think they're more receptive out there as opposed to the area, DMV?
It might be the style of music.
Mm-hmm.
I admit. A lot of times somebody could say like a lot of our music might be kind of considered old school because it's like a lot of it's based in boom bap.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be it.
Mm-hmm.
Boom bap. For a lot of people may not be necessarily what they want to hear on mainstream, especially with like trap music on trap drill music, but I challenge that because you have artists that on the mainstream such as J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and really like even though Jay's older, like when you look at his last album, the 444, I mean again soul music, so there's a place for it. It's just trying to get someone to be able to do that, and that also goes to radio, right? Again with like infrastructure and being able to help. But I get it. There's only but so many songs you can play.
Yeah.
But also it's understanding how radio's format, and really it's really formatted for kids.
Yeah.
It's like those 14-year-old kids, and then also women. Yeah. I think that's the other thing to understand. And then so for artists, I think that's the other thing also with the mindset that like unless you have like a top 20 or 40 song. The most that we're going to get put in the mix is on the mix show, and the mix show is the easiest way. But sometimes it's like, hey, give it a try. Like, do you think you're going to lose your listeners in 2 minutes to play this record? I think that it's also their responsibility to give things a try. And that's when I said, like, you're telling me that 2 minutes of time is going to, like, be detrimental. I get it. But see, if you can gauge that somebody's changing whatever tools that you have, that somebody's going to another station playing a song, then okay, but that's only one time. You know what's going to happen if the other station isn't playing or whatever. They're going to turn back, because they listen to the station.
Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to programming, I think that that's part of it, right? It's being fearless in that sense, and it's also really giving the tools to DJs because I've had conversations with DJs. They're scared to play it because if they play something wrong, they can get fired. So it's hard. So as an artist here, when you see these things and competing, it's like, yeah, like I said, like, okay, I'm sitting here right now, like, oh, I can probably go on a 10-city tour, and I can go to Pittsburgh, I can go to Carolina, I can go to Idaho, I can go to like, Canada, like I said, I can go to Portland, I can go to all these places that are championing my music, I can go to Arkansas, but I don't get the same, love here, and it's just because it's like again, it's a little bit frustrating with the access.
Yeah. How did you know you wanted to be a producer and a MC?
I love music. I started out DJing, and so I the funniest thing is like as a kid I like Legos and I like to draw. So it's an extension of that.
Okay.
I like creating. So when it comes to production, the production is just another form of coloring. It's another form of like Legos. I was in the Transformers. I would build my own Transformers with Legos. So it's like an extension of that. So with music, I'm doing the same thing. So I like to create. I like to express myself in that way. I never was a an MC in the beginning. I always say I'm a slot rapper. I'm good for that 4 to 8, But then, now as my transition now with becoming an artist, with the project I'm working on, I realize the project is called ART. It stands for Achievements, Regrets, and Triumphs. The project is based off of a time period of my life where I lost my job for 7 months, and it's also reflective of me losing 2 parents, my stepmother and my father, 5 months apart last year. So I can't tell an artist to, even though I'm making the beat, to express that.
Yeah.
I have to express it. So I began a pathway of that now, and so now I'm writing, and so the project that I'm working on right now, I'm like on 9 out of 12 songs, But so me becoming an artist in that sense was because I needed to tell my story.
Yeah.
And I needed to get it out, and it's a form of therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I appreciate you. So, how did the city, within your career over these years, how did the city and the people support you?
The city supports me through fans and peers, where they participate in the events that we put together. So we've done a lot of free events where there are listening parties, and then also like we've done like Q&A type of events, or if you would say like breakdowns of the music. So the people are definitely come out to that. So the fans and our peers support us in that manner. And then as far as with the city, there are people such as, I got to shout out like Birdland and Songbird.
Oh, yeah.
That I would say they're probably like one of the greatest at supporting local artists. So they support in that manner. Again, a victim of COVID, but shout out to my girl Cassie, but Wicked Bloom.
Oh, yeah.
We used to do a lot of events at Wicked Bloom. So again, people like that. Even Pot Shop, I would say as well.
When you say a victim of
no, I'm sorry. No, I said that events. But no, they used so with Wicked Bloom they used to. I don't know why I said victim.
Oh, okay. Because are they closed? Is that what?
Oh yeah, victims. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, being a victim.
Case.
Yeah, victim.
Okay, I didn't.
I'm sorry.
Know,
yeah, right. I'm sorry. I apologize. Being a victim of
of
everything that's happened because
Yeah.
they're gone now.
Yeah.
She's at
amazing space. Yeah.
Yeah, but just saying that like on like a Wednesday we would do these events there, and it was beautiful. No issues. It was packed to death. The footage is on YouTube. In fact, I put something up recently, but. Those type of people where they believe in you. There's another place, Chef Tate. Gosh, I'm sorry, Chef Tate. I can't. He has a beautiful space in Northwest. Gosh, but with Chef Tate, he's even amazing because his business is based off of community. As well, and he has a space where I was trying to look him up where he champions us as well. But it's people like that. So those it's really certain businesses that help out in that sense to be able to give us that access and to understand it. And that's so the word I use a lot of times is in kind, like to allow somebody to be able to come in and to express their art and for it to be successful. It's very important because when you put up and I get it, it's monetary, but when you put like these crazy bar guarantees, or when you put up these like rental fees, it's virtually impossible for somebody to do something, and then they make it, and then I get it with liquor because I'm working on a sponsorship now, but when it comes to sponsors, it makes it even more difficult. Because now, if I'm having somebody that's like a sponsor, you're not letting me bring in a sponsor, and the sponsor may want to have their likeness in there, and that's because it's like so you make it so, and so then because if you're not doing that, they may not want to give us money, and so a lot of times you need sponsors to offset some of those certain things. Granted, now if you get a grant, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But just saying, like they make it so difficult for you to be able to do to if it's not even necessarily make the profit, even if it's like breaking even. And so what I would like to do is when I do my events, like the last event, I wasn't able to do it to pay the artists. I was able to luckily break even. I was able to pay the support, but for the artists, they didn't make a profit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and they were thankful for the opportunity. But I don't want that. I
No.
want them to
Yeah.
be able to. I want them to be able to
Yeah.
monetize that.
Yeah.
But when you have certain structures that are in place,
Yeah.
it makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
So the question now for me is, we're coming into another show, July 9th at Pod Shop. I think we're okay with that one.
Yeah.
And then we have one on August 25th at Union Stage. I'm
Okay.
bringing Slum Village down
Oh.
for
Wow.
that one. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
But that's going to be my last one
Yeah.
for the year. But it's
Okay.
it's like all right, that's the question for me now. Like, how do I make this work? How does this work for others to be able to help others?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's getting my own space.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Right.
it or is it having, how can I like finance it where it's like, hey, can I rent it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can this work where it can be successful, where artists can come in, present their art? What is that?
And let me tie in this question too. What do you think we need for infrastructure here? For music industry infrastructure?
Definitely more places
Mm-hmm.
that are in kind,
Mm-hmm.
that are willing to allow us to be able to come in to present our art, where that you're not.
And explain that in kind more. Too.
So when I'm saying in kind is, and that's my favorite word, but what I mean by that is that the barriers that I present before, where you're not giving us like a 12K bar guarantee, something where we're not saying to them that you're not going to profit, but at the same time, the artist or whoever's putting it together, where they are able to at least get out of the red.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of losing like 10 to 20%, but when you're making it with certain things, it just makes it difficult. And people have the space, and I get it. I know the times that we're in, but the same thing for you is the same thing with us, meaning that I just think like price gouging is like, it's crazy, but, I know that things can be a little bit more successful if you just don't make it harder for us. If you're wanting like 40% of something, and then you throw all these other fees, like how can you actually make something, like I said, the 12K situation,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna say add 25% gratuity, and I know the numbers, and I know what your capacity is, I know what we did at the bar, like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm getting at. And then you also got to realize also when people are coming out, spending money. So that's what I mean by in kind. So I don't know if it's like spaces that are friendly to allowing that. I don't know if it's really like, if it is like the government or what have you, giving stipends or what have you to help offset the cost. But artists need to be able to express their art. And then also we have to be, I think that for businesses as well, the hardest thing is that with people with their sensors, especially at an older age, they kind of shut down what's new, because of life, because of children, because of work. So it's like kind of like, so that's why when you see it, that's why they're going to the younger, because they don't have the same responsibilities and things that are going on with their life. So that's why they're focusing on that demographic. They don't really care about you, but there really is a demographic for that. But at the same time, for that demographic, because they're being underserved, they don't know about that. So it's like, can you set up things where we can also bring those bodies out, and that's also for the radio as well. So those are things that will be able to have artists to be able to survive. I mean, you think about it, like in Texas, Atlanta, those artists they're able to survive. Now, granted, yes, we do have go-go music, but yes, an artist can survive here if that infrastructure is there. But that's why they're leaving, because they're like, I can't, the things that I'm talking about, if I'm going through that, just imagine if somebody else is going through the same thing. So they're going to go elsewhere. I have two artists that I work with now. They both move. One's moving to LA, the other one's moving to Oakland. Because they're like, I've done everything here.
Yeah.
Yes. They're like, I've done everything here.
Yeah.
So, I've tried to make it here. And so that's why I'm leaving, because there might be better opportunity there.
Yeah.
And so that's why you see, like, a lot of these people that are going to New York, going to Atlanta, because it's a different ecosystem, and it's a little bit more open to allow them to be successful, and they don't have the same challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But if the city um, and businesses, get behind that, but the thing is, it's like for them to understand what the value added, and I think because they don't understand it, and they don't have people that are in those businesses, or in those discussion rooms or what have you, meeting rooms, they don't understand it. So if you don't understand it, you're not going to value it, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Nobody values it, and then you have people that either don't understand it, or you have people that are not. I mean, that's even for like go-go music, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, because there still are issues, and there were bigger issues. At least I know in Maryland at one point where they were closing everything down. But people don't understand that, and the people don't understand the outlet, and then a lot of things also for the youth. When you talk about all the violence and all that stuff, again, you have to understand and you have to be invested to the area, because this is all part of that. A lot of what you're seeing is that,
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a song, and this is loosely based off of the song on my album.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be my second single after my first, but this is the hate made.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't like it or they don't understand it. So what you're doing is a lot of this stuff is the byproduct of it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so people don't understand that, and because hey, I'm in this bubble, you don't see it. So hey, it doesn't bother me, but then when it comes around to your block, or it comes around to somebody who you are affiliated with, associated, loved one, then it's like, oh, now it affects you. But it's like everything affects everything.
Yeah.
So that's why I say the hate made. People don't understand that, but that's all that's happening. Yeah. So
Interesting. I want to tie in this because I think do you feel that artists today have more access to infrastructure?
I do, in the sense of being able to tap into things, because again of how you have the internet, social media.
Mm-hmm.
So from that sense, I think that, and then just technology. From that sense, I think that we have better tools, but not relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Not relationships or understanding business.
Yeah.
And so although you have those things are there present, but a lot of people don't understand business, and a lot of people don't understand relationships and people dynamics. And so that's why a lot of times these businesses, they don't want to talk to them. They don't want to talk to the artists, because artists are a lot of times in their eyes, they're not professional, very emotional.
Yeah.
Color outside the block.
Yeah. Yeah.
Out the line. So they have this impression. So that's why a lot of times it's like, it is good to have that representation, even if it's like you have somebody that's basically your puppet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's, I think that, but even at that, like I said, irregardless of that, it's the relationships, it's understanding things, and it's also understanding, like, not taking things personally as well, and understanding what's business and all that. And I get it, because it's your art.
Yeah.
So the technology exists from that standpoint with infrastructure. You have like things that you guys do at DC Music Summit, have tools, right? Like I said, 202 creates. I know that also with the governor's office. Mayor's office. There's things that are in place there. So and then there's other independent things that are out there that exist that can help. But again, I think it's also just the relationship thing, because when you go in, you have to be able to pitch and promote yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to do it in a manner where somebody's like, okay, I want to take a chance. And so I think that's a component that needs to be developed of people understanding that part.
Yeah.
The human component, the business component, because this is a very relationship, business.
Yeah. Yeah. What woke you up to making sure your business was together? Like what did you have a mentor in your life? Like, how did you come around to organizing, ADST Music and ADST Media?
Being jerked when I first started doing music as a producer. And I was marketing my music. I would go to certain people that helped me do the PR stuff, And so I know you're familiar with Bandcamp.
Mm-hmm.
So with Bandcamp, what is great about Bandcamp is that anybody that puts an embed of your music, Bandcamp will track it. So I caught somebody and I saw what they were doing with my music. I gave them the stuff and they weren't doing anything but just doing like this like form. And I just looked at how they did what they did and I said, that's all you're doing? I could do that myself. Why am I paying you $300 and that's all you did? Right? Um, so I started learning things from taking losses. Also, I went to school for business. And in my professional career, I've been a manager as well. So I kind of tied in all of that, those different things to kind of create that structure. And then when I started learning again, uh, I, I learned the art of pitching. I don't know where I got it from, but then I realized, how important pitching is with your music and shows and events. Like all the events that are happening now, it's because of the pitching. I was able to. So like now, and even if I meet you, I can say what I need to say to you in 30 seconds, and it's like, either we're gonna do something or you're interested, and then we connect, and if not, cool, move on. 30 seconds, because it's just people's attention span. Same thing with pitching. Here, this is who I am. This is my business. Here's a brief accolades of what we do. Here's a presentation which I have, and it's like I have like a whole presentation of everything I've done, and then also I had the foresight that like with social media, my media page is just a highlight reel. So if somebody's like, oh, what does he do? You can go there, see everything I do, and then with my media website, it's the same thing. All it is a tool. And so like I tell all my artists, everything that you're doing that I work with, everything that you're doing, even though he may have been on Hot 97, or he may have been in the Washington Post, guess what? When they go there, it connects to the name. So all you guys are helping each other with opportunities. So that's been, like I said, and that's probably like my secret sauce, but that's been what I've been able to do, and just learning and having great mentors as well. So like Wendy Day.
Okay. Yeah, Rap Coalition.
So Wendy Day. Shout out to her. She's gave me a lot of vital information. So I've never told anybody really that. But yeah, Wendy Day. Shout out to Substantial.
Substantial music.
Yeah, so with Creative Suitland and all of that. I've had a couple of consultations with him. He's helped me. Shout out to like my man DJ RBI. And then I took a couple of classes at 202 Creates as well.
Okay.
But I'm not afraid of learning, and I'm a student of this as well because I enjoy it. But that's the thing. My thing is I want to win, and I want to reach my goal. So I'm always searching for the answer, and so that is the question: what can be done to be successful? Yeah. So hence a lot of the things that I'm doing and learning is taking chances. Yeah. And failing, like I said, so like I said earlier, we were off camera. That's the whole thing, like, the whole Ciroc thing. I went to somebody here that was a brand ambassador. Yeah. Hey, okay, here's my information. They had Ciroc Spritz. I was like, hey, this is my demographic. So my thing is, I'll tell people I'm a micro influencer. In my events, I definitely can get 100 to 300 people. These are working class Americans. This is what they do. Blah blah blah. I have a 10K email list of direct people that I can touch. My local list of people that come to my events is 1K. So I'm like, I know I have something here to front face your product. That's my whole pitch. So I sent that to him. He never responded. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna send it to the Diego, the main company of Ciroc out in Britain. Yeah. Then they said, well, no, we don't handle U.S. Here's the person. They sent it in. And he hit me back and he said, hey, great pitch. We're not accepting anything. And it's like, cool, but that's what I'm thinking about, taking chances. And like I said, I put that up on social media to say, hey, like, hey, I get turned down too. And then, like I said, somebody from Chuck D's camp hit me up, and they're trying to help me right now with sponsorship, at least with a spirit sponsor. But and same thing. Like, I've talked to people at like XXL. I've talked to people at Complex. I've talked to editors. I've talked to writers, and I understand also what they want, and I understand the situation they're in. and it's always pitching it to them, but it's like, it's the story, it's the pitch. They got a lot of things coming to them where it's like, oh, they only supposed to be doing that. So it has to be interesting enough for that person to have that value. And so you have to have that foresight and understanding. But it's like, again, it's learning. All that stuff, like I've worked over like 30 records probably by now, maybe even 50. But I've worked all of these different things with these people. So I'm learning something every time. And every time I do something, I meet somebody new, I learn something new, So that's how I've been learning to empower myself and be effective to what I do to help others.
Yeah. What do you do for artists?
So, ADST Media is it's a multimedia entertainment company, but we handle PR in the sense of that we get music out to radios, radio stations, DJs, blogs, and also major entertainment sites. So we help in that fashion to get the music in front of them. We're able to be very transparent with like the analytics to say, okay, this is who has it. We can also present to you on those type of reports. So it's that component. We also help with digital marketing as well, with strategies to present your music to others. Also consultations, certain strategies that they could use to help get your music into the forefront of people. There is another component where there's helping with like doing events, quasi management, even though I don't really like to get into management, but there are some of that with representation as well. Again, like I said, with pitching or what have you, event management as well with handling functions. So, and then there's also the creative aspect, which is like there's me as production, as a producer, but it's also like I like cover art. Like if you look at all Priest of Nomad stuff, that's all his cover art is me. I just don't really advertise it, but I do have that ability of doing that, like cover art. I write video treatments, so like like Good Lord 2, which is my last single. I wrote that treatment. I wrote the concept idea for like Priest's motivation and a couple of things for other people. So yeah. Like strategy, like with Night Train, 357. Matter of fact, here's my other thing. So yeah, so we won that best album. I produced this album. Shout out to my guy Night Train 357 for believing in me.
What was the award?
Best rap album for the Whammies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 2020. Yep. 2020. So I produced I think nine of the tracks on here. Shout out to my man Artemis. He did 2. Well, he did 1, and then there's another producer that did another one here. But anyway, no, he did the other 2. I apologize. But yeah, so I did this album. But his album was out for a while, so when we talk about strategy, I listened to the songs that I produced in there. He had a song on here called "Drive Me Crazy." Shout out, you mentioned your name in the song. Gave you a little shout out in the song. So, but yeah, so I was like, yo, you should remix it, and so that helped to put the song, the album back out in people's faces. And, gosh, I don't know, he may have like almost 100,000 streams on it, maybe. Okay. He has a lot of streams on it now. And then, he did the creative video as well. Scary, a ghost. Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, but just saying this things like that, like, hey, giving somebody an idea, like, hey, why don't you do this and you can work it this way. And listening to people's music and just saying, hey, this is what you could do. So that's pretty much what I do with that, and then help to champion people in different various things. So now, I guess I can let the cat out the bag because it's over with. But that's just like, so one of my clients is, shout out to Nonchalant.
Oh, yeah.
So like, Nan was like, hey, something in the water's coming, Dre. You think you can get in front of it? I'll try. I'll never say no. And I reached out to them. They hit us back.
Oh, get out.
They hit us back, but again, it didn't turn into anything, but that's what I'm saying.
They still responded.
But my whole thing was, again, with effective pitch writing.
Yeah.
So they were like, hey, if we have any slots, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. So to me, it wasn't a loss.
Yeah.
But that's what I do, know. So it's like, again, knowing how to talk to people and all that. And so it's like, okay. So again, what I did with that, what did I say? Okay, this works. It's not me, and then at the end of the day, it's them and what they want to do. But I got it to somebody. So, but that's what ADST Media does. It helps kind of like bridge that gap, helping artists to get their music out and help them expand their reach.
Do artists need to know their business if they're going to make a career of this?
I think so.
And what is the best way, do you think, that for an artist to begin that movement?
Oh wow, it's like so many components
Yeah,
to it, you
yeah.
know. Which is very true. The music part of it is very easy because that's you expressing yourself. So I would say to understand like paperwork
Mm-hmm.
is important when it comes
Yeah.
to agreements and to have
Mm-hmm.
agreements so that things are transparent with people that you interact with in that function. Uh, I think that if you don't have a manager,
Mm-hmm.
having a manager helps with the business aspect, as I said earlier. I think that having a person in front face, even if it's one of your friends that's like the guy that's like the social guy,
Mm-hmm.
but they have a sound head. I think if you have somebody in your circle, if that's not you, that's the guy that needs to be the business guy. You need somebody to be able to help you to get through the doors. So that helps as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would say um, any type of um, book on like there's like a book. It's called Music 101, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I should have brought it, but anyway, like any book that kind of like tells you about structures,
Yeah.
but how things work. Understanding publishing
Mm-hmm.
is important because publishing is about again securing your residuals. When people don't understand, like when your song is being played on the radio, that's considered a performance,
Yeah.
and then also understanding like the technical component now, with digital royalties as well. So having those things set up, create yourself an LLC. You are a business, and we have a lot of expenditures. So a lot of these things you can write off, and so I think that that's important as well. But from the business standpoint, just have somebody that's able to be able to engage people, be able to read contracts for you if you don't have that knowledge, and then having someone who understands PR or digital marketing that can be able to get your stuff out there. So you may have to hire people, or if you have people that are in your camp
Mm-hmm.
or friends, I think that's important. Like to find your tribe
Mm-hmm.
and to vet people out. And the reason why I'm saying a lot of times your tribe is because those people that you have personal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they're invested in you. Now definitely you can pay somebody, but it's just like find somebody that is as passionate about you as you are for yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
important because you don't want to be just somebody's like like meal ticket where it's like, oh, I'm doing it, but they don't understand you. So the synergy goes hand in hand. Even though they may
Mm-hmm.
not be the artist, there's things that because they're excited for you, they're gonna fight to break those doors down for you.
It sounds like you just built a team. That you were just explaining that it is important for an artist, a career artist, to find parts of their team, and also it also sounds like you're saying it's necessary to invest in yourself
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you have those people,
Mm-hmm.
so definitely you have if you so I would say you need to have somebody that manage you unless you can effectively do it yourself. So management, PR, marketing
Mm-hmm.
person.
Mm-hmm.
If that's one or two people or somebody that understands like social media, that's one part. And then the other part of it is if you actively can have like cash invested in yourself to like even if it's like $100 a month,
Yeah.
because people don't understand now that because of Meta has understand the power of data,
Mm-hmm.
and overall if you look at everything's data algorithms. So social media, if you're using any Meta product, is based off of the fact that they know that they can manipulate algorithms, and so because of that, you have to pay.
Yeah.
So you're paying for algorithms to be able to do that, and unfortunately, we know that people are on Facebook. We know people that are
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram. TikTok's a little bit different. I'm still understanding TikTok, right? But my
Yeah.
but my point is that you still have to invest some money in that
Yeah.
as well. Google Ads
Mm-hmm.
is great, a very important tool for
Mm-hmm.
your videos. Uh, we've gotten great results with that, um, so that's important as well. And then, but
Human connection.
human connection. So meaning that uh, for you as an artist, champion yourself, build a connection. That's what it is now. That's what people, people want to know about your story. They want to, connect to you and turn, turn that person into a fan. And if you can, um, start to create, like I said, your offline tribe. Like I said, with direct mail, create your website. Again, you don't own any of your content on there, so if social media was to go down tomorrow, where people want to know about you and find you. So create your tribe through your events that you collect, that you can collect data in that sense, and being able to contact those people and hey, they'll tell you also, hey, take me off your list, but don't be somebody told me that last week, but anyway, it's fine, but it's just that you need to be able to have that personal relationship to get to people. So I think Ryan Leslie, shout out to him because he's from here. I'm sorry, looking down.
Oh, I didn't know Ryan was from here. Okay, I didn't know that. Wow.
So he was smart to do the whole thing with the number thing.
Yeah.
So and a lot of people hopped on to that. But whatever it is, building a relationship and finding your tribe.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, and this is my goal. If I can get like 10,000 people,
yeah,
that's all I need. You know what I'm saying, to be successful.
Have a sustainable career,
right.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you think about that, and just think about creative ways as well. And so that's why I said with your PR person, creative ways to like get your music in front of people, because we live in a swipe up, swipe down society is what I call it. So you only got maybe 3 to 5 seconds to get someone's attention. I got a song about this called Fame. Anyway, but my point in that being is that you have to be engaged, and I don't always do it, but I know that like this next phase, like the video that I'm doing, the treatment that I'm doing, it is designed to keep somebody engaged, because you have to do that. There's everybody's doing music, so you got to find a way to do that. And so those people that are going to lock into you, that's how you do it. And it's okay. Look, it's okay. Spend $30, $1 a day. Find a content that something that you may have on your social that people can be drawn into you. I had a client that he released the album out last week, and I just said, hey, congrats on the album, but I see that you have an ad and it's just your album cover, and you're just telling people your album. I was like, but they don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying? I was like, if you want to play music on it, that's cool. But I was like, you gotta do something to bring somebody in. I was like, I'm not going, I'm not gonna know what that is.
Yeah.
So I was like, change it so that somebody understands that who you are, whatever that is, and if not, we can figure it out. But just add, my new album's out, da 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 da.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that's hard. And just saying that's like, but just find, and if it's not for your product and you want somebody to come to your page, again, have something that is engaging, that's something that introduces, and I'm not saying to not be yourself, but you have to figure out what that is. Like for me, I think my journey, and I think the mental health stuff that I talk about, and then the stuff I'm going through with my father that I express about, I think that's my connection to people.
Yeah.
Being that human part.
Yeah.
So that's my line. But you might be a comedian, or you might be like somebody that got bars, and I'm like, all right, yeah, that's what you should do. But find some way to bring people into you. That's important.
Absolutely. Do you believe that there's sustainability in music having occurred in the DMV or DC in particular?
I don't.
Okay.
And the only reason why I say that is because I can't think of an artist that does hip hop or R&B that's just been here. There's, from a touring standpoint, I don't think so. And if somebody is, I can't think of them. And the only thing, again, when we talk about that, it's so funny. We were at a dinner. It was a young guru had this dinner, and it was like, it was me, it was Nonchalant, it was Tracy Lee, it was a lot of these people. It was Black Alley. It was like so it was like we were talking about music here in DC, and DJ Iron said this. And he was right. He's like, yeah, Rare Essence been, what I'm saying, touring forever. But you know what I'm saying, but they're a band, you know what I'm saying, it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a DC based music form. But for an R&B artist or hip hop artist, that same sense, again, it's because it's not valued, and then also that it's not the same access.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the same access was here, then I would probably say yes, but it's not, because you think about it, the largest venues. I mean, Capital One,
Mm-hmm.
Anthem. Then you have like the festival spaces. Then you talk about like the Union stages. You talk about the 930 clubs
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. Um, and then there's places. Then you got the Fillmore. Uh, you have spots out in Baltimore, and Wolf Trap and what have you. The other spot that's in Columbia, I can't think of the space. So you have that, but we don't all have access to that. But here's the other thing: we don't have the audience that knows us. So that's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be something here to be able to allow, like I said, an artist in that space, the same space. And so like I said,
Mm-hmm.
Essence been here forever, right? So they've been able to sustain their audience, and a lot of that's also not necessarily because of industry, but I'm just saying that it's that same type of thing here isn't set up for per se an artist. Now, when you get popular,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But I think maybe for maybe somebody that does R&B, it might be a little bit easier than somebody doing hip hop. So I do think that you have to lead. You know, again, like I said, I mentioned two artists that just said, "Hey, I've done everything."
Mm.
But everybody still doesn't necessarily know them here.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that. So I think that you have to leave. Um,
How do you measure success in the industry?
that's different for different people.
Yeah.
For me, it's reach and access.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Reach and access is for me, but then for others, it's monetization
Mm.
and streams,
Mm-hmm.
likes and
Mm-hmm.
follows. But here's what I'll say: I've seen people that have the 100K or whatever, and they'll do a show, and I go to show, and the people don't show up.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's falsifiable what they're doing. And that's the other thing. Also, with numbers can be falsified now with bot farms. If you don't know what a bot farm is, you have these people that have these fake people that you buy, and they like and stream the stuff. They got programs that so numbers can be fudged now. So I don't know if it's an indicator of that, but yeah, to me, success for me, because I think with access and reach, because with access and reach, you're touching people, you're turning people into fans, and then at that point, my thing is if I can get, it's one thing of like having, like, let's say I have 100,000 followers. My thing is can I convert 10% of them to purchase my art? That's my goal.
Yeah.
But in order to have that, again, it's reach and access.
It's reach and access.
So to me, that's what my goal is.
Mm.
You talk to somebody else, they're gonna say, "Oh, I gotta be platinum, blah blah blah." Making this amount of money. But I think that if you have that, you can sustain the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because, like, again, love internet, has brought us all together. Social media has brought us together, but it's just like now it's information overload. Like. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like when I so here's a gem,
Mm-hmm.
working PR. I tell artists, look, if you want to give me something, give it to me like 2 to 3 weeks before, because you don't know what I got going on.
That's right.
But when you release it, you're on a time clock, because to them, something 2 weeks and older is old. So
Yeah.
they release, and DJs, you have some DJs that are like that, but a lot of times DJs don't care.
Yeah.
But when it comes to media, yeah, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
So just thinking, the whole digesting thing is like crazy.
So talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I said it just depends on who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say to a young ADST coming up?
I would say have a your business foundation set up.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, to avoid all of the pitfalls. But unfortunately, those pitfalls, like yeah, definitely
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
firm up your business structure, and then also believe in yourself. Because to be honest with you, when I started, I didn't.
Mm.
Uh, I'm like totally not that person before. Like now, I'm very confident,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that might be because of life experiences. But yeah, believing in yourself, believe in your art, but also just from a business standpoint, just firm up business, so that you won't have issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add or share?
Uh, I think that for anybody that is listening to this, um, your art is your art. Express it how you feel it. Be able to um, do it fearless. Um, do not care what others say. Um, we are in a space now that unfortunately people are voyeurs and they don't have the gift that you have of creativity. So all they can do is look at you. People have an issue and people don't understand a lot of times because it's you.
Mm-hmm.
They can't see greater than the person that they either may have known you from the past,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a lot of times disassociating you with that because they haven't seen anything. And I don't want to use greater, but somebody at a level that you're at. So that's one. And then also get out of your way. Get out of your way.
Get out of your own
Get out of your own way. Get out of your head. Um, yeah, get out of your way and understand business is business and it's not personal. And you have to think about everybody comes up to somebody, to these people that you're trying to connect to say that they're dope
Yeah.
and that they have the greatest thing. And I'm gonna be honest with you, even people come to me now, and it doesn't phase me. I don't care about that. So understand that. Understand how to connect to people where they can feel you and understand that. You can tell by somebody's passion when you meet them and how they are. But when you say that things like that, it doesn't matter. So I'll say that. And then I have a shameless plug. I have I'm coming out as an artist now. So I'm actually,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, so I have a song called New Horizon. Hopefully that'll be out like August or September. It's done. I'm just in the process of getting, while the treatment is done, I'm trying to find locations to shoot the video. But anyway, that would be my first single. So that's going to be interesting because it's ADST, the artist. So I'll leave this here and we'll see with this statement. I've always been the producer. I've always been a PR person. But what happens when ADST applies all that he has done for others for himself as the artist and he could do what he wants? Will I win? And what is the definition of winning? So I leave it with that because you never know what may happen. So we'll see.
Oh, it's going to be lit. Can you let people know your social handles?
Sure. Personally, on Instagram, it's ADST.music. My company, ADST Media, where you can see the artists and all the events, is just ADST Media. And then on Twitter and Facebook, ADST Music, ADST Media. And then my website, where you can find me as an artist and producer, it's adstmusic.com. My company is a little bit weird, but it's just www.adst.media. No com, just adst.media.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are a wealth of experience.
Thank you.
You have got a lot of knowledge, and I just appreciate you so much for coming out today and sharing everything. So thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right. I hope I didn't let y'all down.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I could talk a lot. I could talk a lot.
That's what we wanted. Thank you.